Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Collect Your Thoughts. On today's episode, we're covering some lighter topics that we thought might be nice and easy to digest. So, we're going to talk about space, time, and the meaning of existence. You know, just some lighter fare, a continental breakfast of sorts from the buffet of life. Hope you're hungry. I'm Jason LeCompte,
And I'm Sean Millhouse.
and this is Collect Your Thoughts. Hey, Sean.
Hey, Jason, how you doing?
I'm okay today. It's a little gloomy, so it always kind of like slows me down a little bit. But no, I feel pretty good. Yeah. How are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, same. Definitely sleepier today as the last episode that I recorded with Asher. It was sunny and 90 degrees out. So to now be back in more traditional weather for this time of year in the 50s and a little gloomier.
Yeah.
I definitely I see myself more impacted by weather and outside sun, how much we have it,
Yep.
whatever, all of that. I am much more impacted than I think I gave credit to it for a long time. So yeah, it always
Yeah.
it just it makes me less productive, which I don't like when I have things to do. But here we
Yeah.
are. We'll make it work.
Yeah. I always joke and say that I'm solar powered because when the sun's
Mm,
out and shining and things are warm, I always feel like I have more energy. But yeah, I
yeah.
missed that heat wave. I was visiting family in Seattle and it was like 50 and rainy and very much like springtime weather. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to getting some of that back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna have a very hot summer, so I don't think you're gonna have too hard of a problem getting that.
A hot girl summer?
No. I
No,
mean,
just a
unless
hot.
you have something to tell us.
Nope, nope.
Okay.
Hot man summer. I'm just gonna be a hot man summer. That's
Okay.
what I'm
I
doing.
mean, I'll be sweaty me
Yeah,
in
great.
summer, so yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get into our collected thoughts this week, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it. What's in the
All right.
collection?
So, I mean, I was a little, obviously, just being a little cheeky in our intro, talking about lighter
Mhm.
fare. But the space that I thought I would bring up is actually from a quote that I use quite often. I'm pretty sure I used it this past week with a client, but it's a quote that I think I learned maybe even back in graduate school, and it just really stuck for me. It's attributed to Viktor Frankl, who was a 20th century psychiatrist, neurologist, and maybe famously a Holocaust survivor. But
Mhm.
he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. Yeah, I know you've heard of him. What's funny about this quote is everyone sort of attributes it to him, and no one can really find it in his work.
Oh,
And
really?
so, yeah, when I was kind of prepping for this episode, Stephen Covey, who is another author and sort of organizational guru, he wrote about and put this quote in a foreword in one of his books and attributed it to Viktor Frankl, but couldn't find where he got it from. And
Oh,
so I did some internet sleuthing, and literally, like, nobody can figure out
really?
who actually said this quote or where it's actually from, but it's so nicely packaged and I think
Yeah.
so perfectly speaks to exactly what I want to talk about today that I'm just going to go ahead and give Mr. Frankel the quote. Or maybe
Sure.
Dr. Frankel. He was a psychiatrist. We'll give him the title of doctor. Yeah. So here's the quote. Here's this. The quote goes like this. So between stimulus and response is a space. In that space lies our choices, and in those choices lie our freedom. You probably heard me say that quote before. I think I had
I've
it on
heard
the
you say
wall
I've
for a
heard
while of my
apparently Viktor
office,
Frankl has apparently
everywhere.
said it before.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's your initial reaction? Like when you hear that, what hits you with it from it?
I think the importance of the space. It's all about the space that lies
Mm,
in the choices. So I think it's really for me, I acknowledge the fact that there are times where I know that I either didn't realize there was space there or
mm,
did not give it the time it was due. And so like that, it makes me just think about slowing down to truly pay attention to the
Mm,
space and how difficult that can be in that moment.
yeah. And the space that we're talking about, that's the space between receiving information, the stimulus,
Yeah.
and then literally how we react to the stimulus. There's a breath. I call it a breath in there, or there can be a breath, but we don't always put that breath in there. So
Mhm.
that's how I talk about it, right? Like when we get information, and sometimes this is in a conversation, or sometimes it's information we're getting from online or TV, wherever it might be. When we receive this stimulus, I think Western culture doesn't really cultivate, doesn't really promote taking time to think, right? Taking time to
No.
actually take a breath and decide how we feel. We're just sort of expected to react instantaneously, immediately, right?
Mhm.
But when we take a second to breathe, we can decide. And to me, that's the freedom that's in that choice, right? That's we can make that choice, and then that choice, the freedom that's in there is we get to decide the kind of person that we want to be, which I mean, as we've talked about, you and I offline and in the podcast, like leading with values is really important to me, but I think it's also important to a lot of people. We just don't ever get that messaging from our culture. So
Right.
that's the way that I think about that. And I think it really works. It really helps to illustrate relational health. That's largely how I use it in session is I talk about who do you want to be in this relationship? And are you really deciding who you want to be based on your values, or are you just reacting to
Mhm.
whatever sort of stimulus, whatever sort of information you're getting from the person that you're in a relationship with, right? It could be a
Yeah.
partner, it could be a friend, it could be a boss, it could be your parents. Like, doesn't really matter. But to me, that's a really just an important piece of relational health. That dynamic where we really show up the way that we want to show up.
Yeah. I'm curious about yeah, I know that this has always been one of your favorite go-tos, but I'm
Yeah.
curious, what was it about today or I don't know if recently, is there a reason why you wanted to talk about it on today's episode? Like why it felt relevant for you, especially to talk about today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think probably because it's coming up a little bit more often. I'm doing in my professional life, I'm doing a little bit more couples work.
Mhm.
And I'm seeing this trend of reactivity versus response,
Mhm.
where we're just allowing our emotions to take over. And I think you want to extrapolate. I don't think it's a huge reach that we're seeing the same sort of lack of thought, lack of critical
Oh,
thinking, and
yeah.
more emotional reactivity, right? It's even
Mhm.
promoted on whatever kind of different TV shows and different, it's in the, I feel like it's everywhere. It's just kind of permeating things. So I feel like this is even more relevant than when it was. I don't know exactly when it was crafted or gifted to us by Viktor Frankl, but he passed away in 1997, and so it's at this quote is at least 30 years old, if not much older than that. And it's even, I think, even more relevant to what we're doing, what the state of the world today, and what we need.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I it seems like
Mm,
there's a there's the art of contemplation is lost somehow.
mm,
I think
yeah.
that that's something that's so important that doesn't like you mentioned, I think in Western culture, at least American culture, it doesn't seem like it's praised enough. It definitely is about being rapid, fast, and efficient and showing that you know what to do in a moment's notice, which is
Hmm.
those are all great things in emergency situations, but most situations aren't emergent. Most situations it
Right.
can feel emergent, but in all actuality it probably is something you can take a little bit more time with, but maybe
Mm,
either that person, yourself, or combination creates this belief that I have to rush to the outcome
mm.
versus letting it sink in, letting your thoughts collect, and being
Ha-
able to really then feel good wholeheartedly about whatever it is that you've decided is the response that you want to go with.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the last episodes that you and I did together, we talked about anger and
Hmm.
how sometimes easily that can come to us, and maybe how available it can be, and maybe even how good it can feel. But
Yeah.
then also the importance of recognizing, like, it's not, we don't always respond in a healthy way when we're responding from anger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and anger doesn't necessarily have to come out with that person that you're having angry feelings around. Like that can be
Yeah.
one of those where have that initial issue that you're talking about with somebody.
Mm.
And maybe that's where you decide, okay, I need to step away, step back from this because I'm feeling too overloaded, I'm feeling overheated, and I need to take a pause. And part of that
Yeah.
might be somebody calling their closest friend or a parent or somebody and being like, I'm in this disagreement with so and so. It's really pissing me off. And like you can kind of air out. And sometimes that other person, hopefully, if you're going to the right people, will
Hmm.
be there to say, "Okay, let's calm down. All right, okay, I hear you." Like, they'll read. Hopefully, you're calling somebody that's reading you, right? And that person can help you, I think, release some of that steam, and then you can return to the actual source to be able to have that. Okay, I've released those feelings that maybe I
Mm.
didn't want to
Okay.
throw at you, but I wanted to feel or get through so that I could reach this moment where I can now talk to you, which
Yeah.
is not something that I think people necessarily afford themselves to do.
That I don't always practice exercise. So all right. So I'm going to admit, I feel like I can also do a better job of creating more space between my stimuli and the way that I want to respond. I think we all, we all don't always live up to our own value set, right? So
Sure.
I know that there are ways for me to like slow down and practice this with myself, where I can almost literally take a breath in between the stimulus and the way that I respond. But are there ways that you remind yourself, or that you practice this art of critical thinking, or of slowing things down and responding?
I think I guess my best answer is that get a little older and you slow down a little bit more, and
Oh, okay.
takes
Sure.
I think wisdom takes the wheel a little more often if you're doing life
Mm,
more right than not, because
sure.
I definitely now when I'm entering conversations where I know there could be difficult words exchanged, or there's a vibe that's usually presented. I feel like that's the thing is most people that in my life, because of the relationships I've curated, I'm able to
Hmm.
have these conversations and be able to have the space with them to say whether or not this needs to keep going. Do we have the space for it? If not, maybe we need to like pause from it, and being able to determine this doesn't feel like it's going anywhere helpful, or maybe
Hmm.
I can acknowledge like I'm feeling too in my feelings, so to speak, to be able to hear fully what maybe the other person is saying. And so
Yeah.
that's I think also really important. Is like if you feel like you're not really taking in what the other person is saying and really like being able to in a way that is actually listening, not just like I hear the words, but actually taking it in. I think that's an
Yeah.
important step to go. I need to step away. And I've heard many times from clients where they talk about, well, the thing is that when my partner asks for space, I want to go after them and I want to know we need to fix this now. And I have had to
Mhm.
work with so many individuals and also couples and be able to say, you've got to create like you got to create that space. If one person is asking for it, that's all
Mhm.
that's necessary. Now, you can't
Yeah.
avoid the outcome of that conversation forever, but you absolutely will not have a good outcome if one person feels like their boundaries have not been respected.
Right. Yeah, that taking a beat, especially if it's being asked for, is
Yeah.
super important relationally. But I also think like showing up in the way that we want to show up, it's also important just to take a beat just for our own. I'm trying to come up with like whatever the word is to describe like showing up the way that we want to show up. I don't know if it's
Mhm.
authentically or genuinely or so. This is the conversation is reminding me of something. It's reminding me of Hugh Jackman. Strangely enough,
Okay.
he so he's sort of
It's reminding
been.
me of Halle Berry. I don't know. Just kidding.
Hey, great. They were both in the X-Men movies together.
Uh-huh.
No, yeah. So he is sort of becoming known for his meditation practice.
Mm.
And he's talked about it in several different interviews that I've seen and actually read online. But he talks about how impactful, how important that has been for him in terms of feeling grounded, staying in his own body and in his own mind. And what I feel like he's speaking to is being able to show up more often the way that he wants to show up in the world. So whether it's in
Mhm.
his work or in his relationships or, or whatever it is, it's something that I always, I think I definitely tried in the past to establish was a meditation practice. And it's not something that I'm super adept at, but it's something that I think I always intend to try again.
Mhm.
Um, just to see like if there's any kind of difference in the way that I show up. And
Yeah.
I've actually noticed it too. My partner did some meditation for a while, and I could tell the difference. I could almost like feel the space between things I would say to him and then the more measured response that I would get. It's
Mhm.
really interesting. So I have some real world, but then also, with famous people talking about, and I'm like, well, okay, well, maybe meditation would be a way to just slow things down a little bit, right? I don't need to meditate for an hour a day, but like anything that would help me take a beat, it's really what I'm looking for, right? It's just to take a beat. So
Yeah.
yeah, okay, great. So here's where I thought there was also some interesting crossover. So there's a philosophy that is also I feel like kind of circulating around a little bit. It's the philosophy of stoicism. And so stoicism is a little bit for me as a therapist who also does relational work and works a lot with emotions.
Mhm.
It's a little bit too reductionist for me to buy in all the way. Because
Sure.
essentially, stoicism is talking about like your emotions don't control you and you don't have to really pay attention to them and you can choose to decide regardless of your emotions. I'm like, okay, guys, like I get where you're kind of going with it, but also feelings are important. Like we continue to talk
Sure.
about feelings are information. Feelings tell us what we might need in a particular situation or what we want. And so I don't want to just disregard, but what I like about Stoicism and then also Viktor Frankl's philosophy, right? He created this theory or this methodology of therapy called logotherapy,
Mhm.
which is the way it's defined is it's centered around finding meaning and making meaning in one's life. And so obviously Man's Search for Meaning is his book and yada yada. So here's some of the crossover that I like between Stoicism and Viktor Frankl's work is Stoicism says that inner freedom is untouchable, that you choose your attitude and your response to the world. So again, I think if you have that space, you can go, wow, that really hits me. And I have a strong feeling. And this is how I'm choosing to respond.
Yeah.
Right. Versus,
Yeah.
wow, I have a strong feeling. Pow, 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 pow. I just hammer right back right away. Right. So I think that's maybe self-explanatory, but I feel like I understand it pretty well, putting it in that context.
Yeah.
Something else that Stoicism says is that suffering is not the enemy, but that it can be a pathway to lessons. And then Viktor Frankl also adds on meaning. So I like that as well. And he's, like I said, he's pretty famous for being a Holocaust survivor. And
Mhm.
some of what he talks about in that book, Man's Search for Meaning, is it's both a memoir and then also an outline of his logotherapy psychology. And he
Mhm.
he talks about how even when he was in the concentration camps during World War II, even during those times of extreme suffering, what he believes saved him was that he was making meaning from those things,
Yeah.
which that I mean that level of suffering pales in comparison to anything that I've gone through. And I know it's not a contest, but also still, like, if he can make meaning in such an extremely difficult environment, like maybe the rest of us can too, at least in some small way. Don't you
Yeah,
think?
well, we always have choice, and I think that's what I always took away
Yeah.
from his
Mm.
work is that even in your darkest of moments, even when the choices between remembering your spirit versus giving up, that is the choice. Even if one
Hmm.
feels like a an outcome that isn't really going to lead to anything better, that's still a choice.
Mm.
And that's I think why it's so important for us to go. It may not be the choices you want, but these are the choices you have. And what are you going to
Right.
do with it? Are you going to come in with your whole heart or are you going to shrivel up and die and sometimes you don't want to fight, sometimes you do want to choose giving up, but I do think most of us have resilience in us that kicks in even when we don't expect it to.
Yeah. It's funny how, like, some of the core tenets of also acceptance and commitment therapy, which is something else that
Hmm.
I'll use, kind of feel like they stem directly from this. It's just
Yeah.
definitely some crossover, some carryover where we're accepting our situation, right? Accepting our circumstances and
Hmm.
identifying our values, and now how do we want to move forward? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
kind of interesting. Yeah. So this next tenet of Stoicism, I actually heard in the most recent episode of The Pit.
Mm.
They said it almost offhandedly, and then they made like a little micro moment of it with Dr. Robbie. But one of the I don't remember which one it was, but one of the new doctors said "amor fati," which is Latin for "accept your fate."
Hmm.
And then Dr. Robbie said, memento mori, or somebody said memento mori, like remember you will die, which is it's sort of
Yeah.
related, but and then he was like, tomato, tomato. It was a really cool, like little micro moment. So
Yeah.
anyway, um, so Viktor Frankl would add on to that, accept your fate, but also respond with purpose. So this is something that I think again is not touted in our modern world, right? We don't necessarily know what's important to us. We don't necessarily know what purpose we have. And we don't all have to find purpose, but it does solve a lot. It solved a lot for me, I know, but it solves a lot for a lot of folks, right? When we feel connected to a mission, connected to something important, a problem we want to solve, or a relationship we want to improve, and then we move forward with that purpose. We may not like exactly what our circumstances are, but if we can accept them and then decide how we want to move forward, to me, that one, like, I feel like I talk about that, not necessarily even in that way, but I talk about that a lot in my personal life, my professional life. Does that resonate for you at all?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that that's what direction is. I think that if
Mm.
without direction when we're making choices, you're basically a bull in a china shop. Like,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
not really thinking about the mess you create if you don't think about the outcome that you're hoping to achieve or the values that usually form that idea of what you hope the
Mm.
outcome will be.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you'd be willing to answer this question because we haven't really talked about it at all, but you feel like you live with a sense of purpose?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I have to, in the especially in the work that we do. It's definitely not easy, and especially during, times like this in history, it's really not easy, but I think if I didn't go in with the idea that these are people who are seeking understanding of themselves and they're looking to me with the education and years of doing the work that they're hoping that I'm going to help them understand
Mm.
and better, hopefully, their situation. And so I think that that then means I'm going in with the hope of doing my best and also with the hope that I'm gonna accept whatever their best is. I say that at the beginning of every first session with a client is really
Do you really?
reiterating. Oh, yeah, I always say it's important for us to know that you're going to bring your best and I'm going to bring my best, but we're also going to acknowledge that that doesn't mean it's going to be like 10 out of 10 best every time. That might
Hmm.
mean I'm dragging myself here to do this appointment. I didn't want to come and talk to someone. However, I'm choosing the value of growth. And
Mm.
I made that be the forefront of that decision. And then my side of it is to say, I may be tired. I may have had 3 sessions already that were really rough, but I'm
Yeah.
also going to do everything I can to be a a blank slate or a place of holding for this person. And just letting the client know, like, that's the commitment, is to know that as long as we are giving whatever that best looks that day, then we are giving our best. Even if it is
Yeah.
a 10 out of 10 best, if that day it's a 4 out of 10, but that's as
Sure.
good as
Yeah.
it is, then that's okay. And it's
Yeah.
important for people to know that, so that we can beat that idea of perfection, that you have to come in this really great open place every time. That's awesome if you can, but
Yeah.
it's not. I don't think that's common. I don't think that that's normal, if you would use that word.
Right. Yeah. I'm actually glad that I asked that question, and I appreciate you answering it the way that you did, because it made me realize that when I hear somebody choosing to act from their place of value, I always admire them a little bit more. Like hearing you
Mm,
say, I'm choosing to make this decision based on my value of growth instead of whatever other feelings I have or whatever other, right?
yeah,
I'm making this choice to do this anyway, I guess, right? Even
yeah,
though something else might be telling me not to. So it's all I always admire people when they show up that way, when they lead a values led life. It's just cool. So
yeah,
yeah, thanks for
yeah,
sharing that. Yeah.
yeah. What about you? Like,
So
how
this
does that
yeah.
show up for you? That way of thinking.
Um never. I don't do that at all, ever. No.
Oh, good. Well, it sounds like
I
this episode
have
can be great
so
for you to listen to.
So anyone who's ever been in my office, my therapy office, they have seen the seven they're phys- physical, yeah, both visual representations of what I consider my 7 values. They're all on my wall. And so I'll even describe them to people. I'll tell them, they're balance, education, authenticity, community and connection, health, living in the gray, and transformation. I believe that a lot of good for me and a lot for other people as well comes from acting from that place of values, those values. And so I try and incorporate those in my life as often as I can.
Mm,
Don't always do my best at that, but I have identified them, and so I know what's important to me. And so when I start to make decisions and they resonate on that level for me, that's then how I kind of like, I don't know, move forward in life. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
great.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks. All right, last piece of Stoicism and Viktor Frankl, and then we'll move forward. So, the last thing Stoicism says is reject victimhood as a final identity, meaning we choose how we respond, we choose how it ends. What do you think of that?
That is a classic. Another phrase I frequently use is with clients, and this is a big fat asterisk. Easier said than done.
Oh,
It
sure.
is,
Yeah.
because I think there's so many things that come out of our mouths in sessions from the therapist that I always want
Uh-huh.
to make sure a client knows. Like, it's definitely not a flippant. Just do it. Like, that's definitely
Yeah.
not
Way easier.
at
Yeah. Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the vibe.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, like, it's very I think that to me is very much a choice of how you want to how you at least want to see yourself, right? I think it's when we get caught up in how others see us, that's when I think it's easier to get into the fear of being perceived as a victim, or
Mm.
maybe it's a compounding of all the things that have happened to us. But I, I hate to say it because in a way it sounds very cliche, but like in that mind, I'm like, no, I'm gonna be a survivor. Like I'm never going to allow victim to be the thing. If I go through something, I'm gonna be a
Mm,
survivor of it. And
mhm.
and you know what? That's the best any of us can do is to say, I went through it and I'm still living. I'm not just that happened to me and my life is over and I'm just going to allow it to die off gradually until I literally leave this earth.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's an interesting overlap there, interplay between accepting one's fate,
Mhm.
but then also not allowing victimhood to be the end. 'Cause you may
Yeah,
find yourself in a really terrible place, right? Or sitting in a hole after a succession of shitty events and then going, okay, well, this is my fate, I guess. But the
yeah,
fate is not to be a victim. The fate is,
right.
okay, all of this terrible shit has happened. Now, how do I want to respond? Right?
Yeah,
I can still accept it and still choose to move forward, hopefully from a values led place, but also maybe just from a resilient or survival place.
yeah,
We're just going to take the next step, even if it feels hard.
yeah. I mean, because
Yeah.
the other options to just give up, and I don't think there's
Yeah.
much to get inspired from by living in that vein, as seductive as that kind of energy can feel.
Hmm. Yeah. At times, for sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. Well, let's move forward then from that. I just feel like this is interesting. So we talked about some space, creating a space, and
Mhm.
this is time. So let's time travel a little bit. Um, this. So I'm gonna bring up a post that I saw recently on Instagram again. This
I
is
also
from.
shared this. I don't know if you saw it, but I was the one that shared it with the group, and I was really excited about it.
Oh, that's right. I did see that. Yeah, 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 yeah. Nice. The post reads, and I'll go into where it comes from. The post reads, I think if March 2019 me and March 2026 me sat in a room, they wouldn't believe each other. Uh-huh. Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah.
For sure. So it's from the page is Enlightened Soul, and it's connected to the website of enlightenthoughts.com, which they describe themselves as a global platform born from a deep mission to inspire awakening, healing, and higher living through soul aligned knowledge. It's a pretty high aspirational description, but also I appreciate a lot of their content because I've been following them for a while. So yeah, so March 2019 me and March 2026 me. So why did you say that? Why did you share that with everybody?
I think it wasn't as much about specifically March 2019 me, but just 2019 me period, in the sense
Yeah.
of like I it hit me like a gut punch because I thought, holy shit, I thought I don't know if I want to tell 2019 me about what's ahead because I think I would
Yeah.
probably throw up. I mean, because the truth of the matter is, so for me personally, it has
Yeah.
been marred with a lot of change, a lot, obviously all the different global stuff, but then also I had several losses that are major,
Yeah.
major losses. Like the people and animals that were in my life in 2019 versus now is really different. And so I just
Yeah.
thought about how jarring that would be to find myself in that place and working in a different place and just being in a very different space in my life and kind of
Yeah.
feeling almost like this this sort of world weary version of myself that is now here that I think in a lot of ways is better, but also because I've seen so much now on
Mm,
just in 6 7 years. So that I think to me was what was so jarring about it is because I just think I would almost be like, should I allow him to just live in his bubble of not having any idea how rocked his world's gonna be? and also just in general the world, or, do I say anything at all? And then what would I say? Like, that's at least where my head went with it.
How do you deliver that news?
Well, I mean, I think the first
Right?
thing
Like,
is I'm gonna freak out and
yeah,
go, "Who wha why is there a doppelganger of me?" And they're
of
slightly
course,
older.
yes.
Like, I mean, that's logistically though, you gotta think about that, you know?
But even if it's just delivering, like if you had that knowledge to deliver to anybody that you cared about, like how do you say your animals are going to die or your parents passing away or this is a terrible pandemic? Or, well, I mean, how do you, yeah, I don't think you can, right? I don't think that's,
I mean, technically, you're
I don't
not
know.
supposed to because you really will fuck up,
Oh,
like,
that's right. Cause you'll fuck up the
space-time
timeline,
continuum. Yeah.
the paradox of, right. Yeah. Of
Yeah,
time travel. Yeah.
so
No,
I
yeah.
think you're
Yeah.
not supposed to, but I could
Yeah.
also see myself being like, "You know what? Things are kind of fucked, and so I'm just gonna see what happens if I," like, because in a way I could warn myself. In a way, I could say,
Yeah.
"Hey, be prepared for this," even though that could also change what could happen, like, again, the paradox. So, I don't know, there's always that curiosity of, like, if I messed it up, would it unmess certain things up? And I mean,
You
I'll
never
never
know.
know.
It's the
Yeah,
butterfly effect. Yeah. You
yeah,
just never know.
yeah.
Yeah. You could always, I guess you could always just buy like toilet paper, stock in toilet paper companies and bottled water companies and then emerge from, so we're not doing that. All right. So screw the time travel piece. But so here's just for perspective, just kind of what we're talking about. As a reminder to everyone who's listening and watching, these are some of the things that were happening in March of 2019. So the final season of Game of Thrones was about to be released in April of 2019. I don't. Were you a Game of Thrones fan? I don't remember
Oh,
if we
yeah, yeah,
ever.
yeah.
Yeah, you were.
I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
late to the
So I mean,
game, but, like, I had
yeah, I
gotten
was too.
into it by that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was too. And then as the final season was about to be released, I was like, this is very exciting. So I was very ready for it. And then, of course,
Yeah,
there was lots of controversy around how they chose to end it and blah, 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 blah.
yeah.
But like, it kind of, shook everyone's world in 2019, that one. Brexit. Brexit was
Mm.
about to happen. There were protests. There were parliamentary votes and all sorts of debating, and also like it was a giant. I remember that being a giant mess. And I think it was right at the end of March, 2019, that they actually separated from the European Union. Unbeknownst to them, there was about to be a pandemic, and
Yeah.
trade would be shattered, and all those sorts of things, right?
Mhm.
In the U.S., the special investigation, quote unquote, special investigation led by Robert Mueller about potentially Russian interference in the 2016 election, that was submitted. That was finalized and submitted
And he
in
just
March of
literally died,
2019.
like, this past week.
That, that's right. Yeah, yeah. I remember seeing that headline. Yeah, but
Yeah.
just like yeah. Also,
Robert Mueller,
TikTok
that
was
is.
not
Sorry.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No. I know what you're talking.
No, I just for the listeners, I'm actually remember
Gotcha.
there are people
Yes.
listening.
Oh, it's not just you and me hanging out?
No, no. I'll have to
Mm.
tell you about it. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find podcasting, YouTube.
Great. Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah.
TikTok. So I haven't ever really gotten totally into TikTok, but it was just gathering steam at that point
Mhm.
in March of 2019. It was just becoming beginnings of a global phenomenon. And it's awesome and also problematic, like lots of things in the world. But just the fact that it was gathering steam, like you think about just 7 years ago, and then it became this giant thing, right? Um, but then also Facebook was weathering like ongoing fallout from the privacy scandals, from the Cambridge
Mhm.
Analytica scandal, which for anyone listening, it doesn't remember or doesn't know, the Cambridge Analytica scandal was about them using information that was not consented to on. They pulled from information they pulled from Facebook. They created psychological profiles of, I think, over 80 million Facebook users in order to target things like political ads. And it's the allegation, or the outcome of that was that it potentially influenced elections in both the UK and the US. So it was a big freaking deal. That and I don't remember. It doesn't matter. We don't have to go there. Um, But then
I think
also the
do you mind
yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry,
No,
do you
no,
mind
go
I was
ahead.
just gonna
Yeah,
say
jump in. Yeah.
that with I mean, I think what's cool or interesting about doing the kind of
Mm,
then and now is like, well,
mhm.
and this recently was the big lawsuit that the young woman won against
Yeah.
Meta and YouTube for
Right.
basically creating psychological harm. And so I
Uh-huh.
think it's interesting that these things that were beginning to really pop up in concern for people's mental wellness. I don't
Mhm.
think, now fast forward all this time and now there's like larger
Yeah.
ramifications happening. Obviously not enough because social media is oof, it's such a
Bigger than ever?
yeah. Well, it's bigger than ever, but it's also, I think, more knownly toxic than ever. It's like smoking.
Mm.
Everyone knows that you shouldn't be smoking, but everyone's doing it. Like at least how it was
Right.
back in the
Yeah.
day with smoking,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and I know that's what they're saying, the internet should come with the Surgeon General's warning. I mean, it should. I mean,
Well, you
really.
say that, and then and then they're gonna start requiring age verification to even, like, log on.
I
It's
mean, they're
just
already
something that
starting
they're
that in a lot of places,
yeah.
yeah.
No,
And
I
other
know. Yeah.
countries around the world already have shit like that, which is
Mhm.
loaded for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. And then do you remember, oh gosh, I can't
Aunt
remember her name,
Becky
but
and Felicity
that thank
Huffman's
you, Aunt Becky.
Felicity
Yes.
Huffman, who yes, I know where you're going with this, go ahead.
Yeah, the college admissions scandal. Like, I was like, "That person's gonna go to jail?" Like, you can't send Aunt Becky to jail. But it
Yeah,
was
and Lynette from Desperate
yeah.
Housewives? I mean,
Yep. Mhm. Yep.
I had
Yeah.
so much respect for Felicity Huffman. She always seemed because she's married to
Mhm.
William H. Macy, who also seems like a
Yep.
really they just
Yep.
always seem like
Stand-up
good,
guy,
grounded,
right?
stand-up people, and not
Mhm.
to say that obviously we know people fuck up all the time and that shouldn't be
Right.
all they're known for, but holy shit, what a picture into I think what happens to you when you get a little too disconnected from the everyday person and you have
Yeah.
access to people in power is that you
Yeah.
begin, I think, forgetting, oh, if this got out, would I be okay with it? I think that's really important to live a life where you
Yeah.
go, if someone knew this thing about me and I
Mm.
know it's inherently not a great thing,
Yeah.
is that something I'm really willing to keep going through with? And a lot of people, again, that's the stopping and creating space part.
That's also yes, it is. And that's also my favorite definition of ethics.
Mm,
Ethics is how you behave when no one else is watching.
yeah.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
very succinct and it makes you go, yeah, if somebody was watching, would I do the same thing? If I wouldn't, then I'm not behaving ethically.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's hard
Yeah.
to own that sometimes. Yeah.
It is. It absolutely is. Especially when you have a degree of fame, when you have some degree of wealth and privilege, right? And you're like, I'm going to help my kid get the best future, best education possible by using my fame and my wealth and my privilege. Oh, wait, I crossed the line. Oh, wait, right? So, yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, the college admission scandal. So that was happening 7 years ago as
Mm.
well. What, what were you doing 7 years ago?
So
What plans for the future were you making?
so I had just earlier that year in 2019 had been
Mm.
promoted to uh,
Ooh.
the program coordinator position at my job, where basically I was the head of my department of therapists. And
Mm.
so it was right after my boss at the time had retired and I took over. And so I was very new to the learning part of that. I was already in previous leadership roles, but not in the way that I now had. Like I was I had that kind of control, I guess. And
Uh-huh.
so I was really mindful of wanting to be a really good manager and acknowledging that I have so much to learn and trying to be careful about not thinking not pulling those same moves that a lot of people pull where they try to interject their what they think is right without really talking to a team about it. And I think that
Mhm.
was really what it was about. Was I was in a place of I was really excited about leading a team and doing it in ways where I felt like I could take my clinical experience and also, what I picked up from research on leadership and management and was trying to create something. And, I feel like I was heading there and in ways I think maybe I would have still been there at this point, like now, if the pandemic hadn't happened, which I think
Yeah.
that's a big thing that happened for a lot of people is the pandemic made many of us go, "Oh shit, I don't know if this is what I wanted, or I don't know if I can keep doing it this way or whatever." It really, yeah, it
Yeah.
made me take stock of that. So I was very new into a transitional place, but I was also excited about like reaching a new level in my career at
Mhm.
that point. But yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like a lifetime
Yeah.
ago. But what about you? What was life
It
like for you in
does.
2019?
So, yeah, just to comment on that, like, it's only like 7 years. Like, if I think about other 7 year periods in my life, I don't think I would have described them, not many of them anyway, as a
Mhm,
lifetime ago. It was a period of work, it was school, it was whatever, just life, but like a lifetime. But it absolutely does. So this period of 7 years feels so long because I think there was just
mhm.
so much serious change that happened.
Unprecedented
Um,
shit has happened in those
Unprecedented.
7 years,
Yes.
a lot of
Yes.
it,
Stuff that most of us have never seen or lived through.
or fathomed we'd ever see.
Right. Right. Yeah. I was newly married. I got married in 2018. And so we were planning our honeymoon, which we decided to take a year later. That part I remember of that year. I think I was also we were also pretty new to our old office space. And so we were
At Bentonville
only
Counseling Collective?
at the Benville Counseling Collective. It was our previous office space. And I think it was our first year there.
Mhm.
Um, because we had signed, I think, a 2 year lease. And then that second year lease, it was like, hey guys, it's a pandemic and we can't use the office space. Can we have a break on the rent? And, it was that kind of a thing, negotiating with the landlord when the pandemic rolled around. But those were kind of like the two, I think, most significant events, goings on in my life at the time. I'm trying to think of like
Mhm.
other things, but like, yeah, it was just, I was just living my life and engaged in pop culture and waiting for Game of Thrones to come out and whatever, right? Like just those
Yeah,
other kind of like peripheral things. But yeah, those were the two main things, and never in my life had what I have imagined what was coming. Um,
yeah.
I think we were also too like sort of living out the end of the first Trump administration.
Oh, yeah.
And we were like, oh, thank God it's coming to an end, and everybody hates him, and nobody wants to see
I mean, at
another
that point, it
election. It
was
was like
still not certain that he wouldn't get
it
reelected. That was
wasn't.
we all those of us who were not down for that
Hmm.
knew it shouldn't happen. But honestly, it
Right.
wasn't until COVID that people really started seeing how, which again, this is that short-term memory that fucking Americans have, I swear to
Uh
God,
huh.
is I remember how quickly people were like, "Oh my God, this guy has no idea what he's doing." Like he had
Right.
all this information on how to stop this, or not stop the pandemic, but prepare for it in a
Right.
much, much, much better way, in the way that obviously they handle medical advice, and we don't freaking
Hmm.
relitigate that. But like, if it wasn't for that, who knows? We might have gotten that 2020 presidential election going a different way that,
Hmm.
he is hell bent on believing it did. But, here we are.
Yeah, I know. It makes me tired.
Well,
It
it's
makes me tired
exhausting.
to think about, like, you're right. That's the short term memory piece is like, how did we forget how absolutely incompetent and ungovernable he was? And then we gave him another chance. Like and then
Yeah.
now we're living it out. We're doing it
Yeah.
again.
After
Like it
that
just
and after January
it
6th,
makes me
like
tired. I
that's,
know.
yeah,
I know.
I
Yeah.
know.
We're gonna get into that too. So that's
Oh,
yeah,
are
no,
we?
that's good. I mean, a little bit. We can talk about it. We can mention it. Okay, so yeah, and so obviously today, like uh, some just like few headlines from today. Obviously, we have and I'm gonna use this in quotes, the Iran war being in quotes. I think I mentioned last time you and I
You did, which I'm
made it.
curious, what do you mean about
Yeah,
what is it the wording of it? Because I know that they didn't do it. We sought it out, but like it is,
right.
I don't know how else you would describe it.
So, all right. So the reason that I use quotes on this is because it's a manufactured conflict. It's
Sure.
not a disagreement that escalated into now we can't solve this with anything other than violence. We didn't both agree that we were gonna fuck up each other's countries and go
Hmm.
to war. This was the president is in the middle of a massive scandal where he is being branded as a pedophile, and he has decided to distract the American public by pressing explode and essentially launching missiles. Like
Hmm.
he's created this out of thin air so that his military buddies get rich, so that the American public is distracted from the Epstein files, so that, I mean, there's a half a dozen other reasons why this is manufactured and has no, like, there's no substance to it. There's no real reason for us to be blowing up another country.
Hmm.
Morally, ethically, it doesn't matter. We shouldn't be doing it. So that's why I'm calling it. It's not really a war. It's not a conflict. It's us just attacking another country, which is
I mean, we've
awful.
waged war on them, so I guess that's the thing. I mean, I get what you're saying, but
You're right.
also I'm like, what's the
Yeah.
other word for it? I think that's where sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
can over semantic things in a way where we're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I mean, I don't know, like a duck is a duck is a duck, like explosions, boom, bomb on other countries, whether we started, they started it, no one started it, like it's the
Mm-hmm.
war. At least that's how I view it.
I
But
just
maybe
I just feel
that's
like it.
yeah.
I feel like it legitimizes it by calling it a war, and it's because it's not legitimate. It's
Mm.
it's a distraction. It's an abuse of power. It's a moral failing. It's yeah. So we can agree to disagree on the
No, I just I
semantics of it.
guess,
That's fine.
but
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
the other word for it? Or are you just comfortable calling it quote unquote war?
I think so.
Okay. I didn't know if you had a
Yeah.
better word for it. So that's why I was waiting. I didn't know if you were gonna be like, well, I would
Yeah.
call it a blah 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 blah.
Yeah. I don't know. A bullying, a genocide. I mean, there's lots of ways to like put it solely on him and his cadre of assholes who are
Yeah.
quote unquote running things.
Hmm.
I'm just going to quote unquote everything I'm saying from this point on.
Okay.
Yeah, great. So yeah, so that's one of the things that's happening now, right? It's very different. AI is huge right now. It's both taking over, right, and jobs, and people are using it, but then it's also highly problematic in that it is creating energy drain and potentially, adding to the climate change issue and I guess essentially making people unemployed. I don't think we've actually hit that yet, but we're starting to see a little bit of turnover in terms of that. So just, some not insignificant things. So I just thought that some of those things were important to mention. What another sort of maybe funny thing to mention is that I feel like television is slowly but surely returning to the weekly episode release format that we had like 20 years ago when we would all gather around the TV. Maybe it was longer than that, but we'd all wait for Thursday night and we'd had to sit down at 6 o'clock to be able to catch our favorite shows and then watch them in succession and take bathroom breaks on commercial breaks, those kinds of things.
Hmm.
So, like I said, The Pit comes out every Thursday. I'm excited. At least I can pause it though. I can pause it and go pee and then come back and
That's true. That's
whatever it
very
might be.
different
So
than how
yeah.
it was.
Yeah. So yeah. So I don't know that there's any real like huge existential question here, but it's really just the reflection for me of the difference between 7 years ago and now, and how, and this kind of leads into our kind of final topic for this episode, but how like chaotic and unstable things feel, and then how that's become so normal. Like that part, when I step back from living in it and just sort of dealing with it, it really is unsettling, I
Hmm.
guess. Like how normal the absolute chaos has become. And I'll admit, I reflect sometimes, like, what am I focused on, right? Am I really just viewing the world with this negative lens because I've been watching too much news lately, or because I'm in a depressive place this week, or whatever my focus might be, right? Am I choosing to see? And there's still lots of good that's happening in the world, technological advancements and people treating each other well, and things being cured, and like, great, like, all that stuff is awesome. But then also, like, there's still a lot of terrible shit happening. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I don't have
Yeah.
anything
Yeah. Mm-mm.
besides agreeing with what you're saying. If
No,
that's
no,
it,
no, no. Yeah, I know.
yeah, yeah.
But I think I maybe my point of my reflection on this is that if we had this succession of events, let's say, like when we were in high school, and we're staring down the barrel of graduating, turning 18, and then potentially, like, there could be a draft that happens.
Yeah, it was called 2003 when I was graduating from high school and the Iraq War was going on.
So you actually did face that. Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. It feels like if we were in that space now, like, and I know you experienced some of that, and I guess I did too. I just I don't remember it feeling as real, as visceral as it does now, but, like, it just feels so terrible, so chaotic. And
Mhm.
back, I feel like 30 years ago, it would have been even worse. What do you think?
What do you mean by it would be worse?
Well, I guess I feel like what I may be working towards is, like, I feel we're desensitized to the chaos, to the
Mhm.
instability. Just happens so frequently, and so there's so much of it that I'm like, is this just normal? Like, is the world just an absolute dumpster fire, and now I'm used to it? I used to get riled up more about stuff. I used to go, wow, that's really unfair. I'm going to join the protest march. And now I'm like, what's a protest march going to do? Or, or should I really call my senator? Cause, like, is anybody answering the phones anymore? Does anybody
They
care at
do,
the
they
government
do.
level? No, they do. Yeah, I know. So,
Yeah.
a lot of them do. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. Um, it just feels like a more difficult reality now, but that also that we're just used to it.
I mean, well, and also I'd say objectively worse things have happened in this time around. There were so when reflecting on like that high school thing, it's like, yeah, my
Hmm.
junior year of high school was when 9/11 happened, and then
Hmm.
after that, war in Iraq, and so yeah, and then from there I couldn't feel like I could breathe until really 2008 when Obama finally got voted in, like,
Yeah.
and so because I remember at that time thinking, "Oh my gosh, the Bush administration, the second one, is just so
Yeah.
horrendous," which they did. They did plenty of horrendous things. I really thought that was the worst of the worst. I really thought this is
Right.
the least qualified president and who has made horrible, horrible, horrible decisions.
Hmm.
However, we did not take the threat of the current president in his desire for power to rear its head in the way that it has. And now I long
How
for the
could we have?
decency. I long for the decency that,
Yeah.
as much as I do not agree probably with most things that George W. Bush agrees in, he never seemed like a bad person. He didn't seem like
Mm.
somebody who didn't care about people, even if he did things that were not good for all people. Versus, I mean, we literally have a president that is tweeting out shit that he's glad that people have died. And so like that to me is just such a I mean, I could never have if you had told me a president of any party would be tweeting out, sending out
Hmm.
messages, literally putting out video game military propaganda for people to look at to make them think
Mhm.
basically that we're, that's what war is. It's a video game. I would have
Yeah.
been like, "You're fucking crazy. That
Yeah.
would never happen. Are you no
Yeah.
way." But here we are. So yeah,
Yeah.
like I think we're all like we've all got major scar tissue, just like a
Yeah.
lot of people with little t trauma. We have all lived through so many collective traumas that it's really hard to you can't really catch your breath because the next punch is coming. Like, and so you just kind of get ready for it. You try to like put yourself in the defense position to like prepare for
Mhm.
it, but like you can't live like that. So things still knock the wind out of you. It's yeah. Yeah. I don't know what I'm offering there, but I think I'm just committing to the fact that like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a different world for so many different reasons.
The thing that I think the perspective that when people ask me about like, the current administration and his reelection and how do I understand that, or the perspective I have on it, like the thing that I come back to is the first sort of, well, one of the first like really scandalous things that came to light about him when he was running for the presidency was grab him by the pussy.
Mhm.
If grab him by the pussy did not eliminate him from consideration, and it didn't. It actually propelled him forward, which blows my mind. If that didn't eliminate him, then that to me was kind of like the beginning of the end. Like I feels almost like we're getting what we deserve, and I understand how that sounds. I don't want to believe that, but that's the person that more than half the country put into power is the person who said that, and we didn't stop it then, and then it turned into January 6th, and then it turned into the Iran war, and then it turned to all of these other terrible things. He's a terrible
Mhm.
person doing terrible things with all of his power, and yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say it's ruining America, but I mean,
Uh,
we don't look great.
it is. I will
We
say
don't
it. It's ruining America.
we don't look we don't look great right now.
No.
You could also say it's ruining America. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So interestingly, I'm listening to myself and I'm listening to us, and like I don't typically ruminate on things like this. And part
Mhm.
of it I think is the CPTSD that you've just described, right? The chronic small T traumas that I'm just trying to avoid, trying not to engage in. But I also hear like a degree of cynicism in my voice. And I have never been a cynical person. I've not necessarily been an idealist, but I've definitely been a realist with rose colored glasses. Like I want
Mhm.
to see the upside. I want to see the positive. I want to see potential for progress. And I can't. I almost can't right now.
Yeah.
Are you seeing a similar trend like with cynicism in terms of like, I don't know, clients or just the world or
I mean, it's how do you not have cynicism? I guess I think the better question is how can you not when the whole idea of our country was to create this system that had, God, I remember if there was anything that I grew up remembering about American government, checks and balances, checks and
Mm,
balances, checks and
uh-huh.
balances.
Right.
And there are no checks and balances happening. And
Not right
that to
now.
me is that at least let me take that back. There's no checks and balances happening on the national level. I think on state levels,
Or
we are
the
seeing
executive branch.
many elections happening that are actually showing a change in how
Mm,
people are showing up and making votes and also our judicial systems are rejecting things, blah, blah, blah. But
mhm.
like, we don't have a Senate and a House of Representatives who are rejecting, for example, like the fact that, since this podcast has aired, I know that the TSA has now been funded. However, there was
Mm,
an agreement made between Democrats and Republicans in Congress, and their president, the Republicans president, because I'm not calling him mine, Donald fucking Trump, said,
mhm.
"Don't take the deal." And so they didn't take the deal. And to me, that's where it's like, are you serving people? Are you serving a
No.
person?
Yeah.
And that's the
Your own
thing
agenda,
is
his own agenda.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's worse. The cowardice and complicity of these people who are
Yep.
just going with it because they're afraid of retribution from this person that will not be here one day, to
Hmm.
me seems so blind, like, such a blind way of operating. Like, this is not gonna
Right.
last forever. I don't really understand what the end game is outside of they're hoping to ruin all the systems so that the game only works in their favor moving forward.
Yeah.
But that's also
Yeah.
a truth that a lot of people don't wanna look at right now.
Yeah, I know. And again, feels cynical, but also real in
I'm
a
gonna say
lot of
to me,
ways.
it's real because
Yeah.
we've continued to get
Yeah.
shown how it's real.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Another thing that I think pops up too is I mean something that I talk about a lot is my desire for and my search for community. And for me that's, a reliance on other people. It's bringing people into my life, sharing things, like creating a more collaborative life. And I feel like a part of a trend that I see is kind of in the other direction. And I don't know that I really noticed this before I was starting to research this, but the more I kind of read into it, like there does really seem to be. Actually, I'll even give an example. So the thing I'm talking about is a trend towards self reliance versus communal
Mhm.
reliance, right? So an example from this past week that actually made me reflect was there was a situation where I needed to drop my car off. I think I even mentioned this to you outside of this recording, but needed to drop my car off, and I was potentially going to be stuck at the dealership without a ride home. And it initially irked me. Like I was like, why would they put me in this position where I need to ask somebody for a ride home? Like, what if my husband's at work or da, 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 da. And I'm like, I guess I could have called a friend to pick me up and take me
Or
home.
get an
Like,
Uber if you had to.
well, so there's the difference between communal and self-reliance. I could have hired an Uber. I
I say
used
if
my
you
own
need to, that's
resources.
what yeah.
If I needed to, I could have,
Yeah.
but that's me relying on myself and my own resources. Or
But
I
see, I
could have
look at
asked
that
for a
as using
favor.
community. We had the community of Uber to help us out or Lyft or
Okay,
whatever.
sure. So maybe some of
Yeah.
that is perspective, right? But from my perspective, it
Sure.
would have been, I guess, a little bit more communal had I considered. Oh yeah, I could just call a friend and have them maybe
Mhm.
do me a favor and pick me up. But I don't. I'm not thinking in that direction as often,
Mm.
and so I feel like maybe that is a larger trend for even for somebody who that as a value that's important to me. Even I'm not thinking that way. So I don't know where I guess I'm just noticing that and maybe
Mm.
lamenting it a little bit. I don't want that to be the case. Like we talked just last time, like be a villager, right? Show up for people, help people, be available, ask, rely on them. Like I want a village, so I want to be a villager, but I didn't think about that right away. And so it
Mhm.
just was an interesting reflection on are we isolating ourselves, right? Are we trying to rely on just ourselves and not be a good neighbor? Yeah,
Yeah.
it irks me a little bit, right? Just kind of like, yeah. So I guess this cynicism that I feel, this self reliance that I'm noticing, I'm, I think so. I guess an existential question that I like to reflect on from time to time is, and I'll see it sometimes in like generational differences is like the way people have conversations or having trouble coming up with a good example. But what I'm getting to what I'm saying is this cynicism, the self reliance. Like, is this how we're responding? Like, are these appropriate responses to the dumpster fire of the world, or are we just kind of like, is this like an adaptation that we haven't really looked into yet, haven't really reckoned with yet? I don't know. Does that make sense? Is that a
I don't know about the adaptation part. I don't maybe say more on that.
so? I don't want to be cynical, I think is where this is coming
Uh-huh.
from, right? I don't want to be self reliant. And at the same time, it feels like I have to be, or it feels
Yeah.
like that's what's being promoted to me is to isolate and rely on myself and see the world differently and or look at all of the terrible shit and go, "Yep, this shit is terrible. I better rely on myself to make myself better, make my world better." When I think that's actually part of the problem.
Yeah.
I, I, it's undeniable that there's terrible shit happening, but then also like the answer is not to isolate myself and become more self-reliant. The answer, I think, at least in part, is to find other like-minded people and be a good villager, be a good person, like put good out into the world. So I think that's what trying to examine, right? Is
Mhm.
are we responding appropriately, or are we producing maladaptive behaviors? That's a better way to phrase that question. Are these maladaptive behaviors? What do you think?
So I think the answer that I came to is like two parts. One
Uh-huh.
is I think being cynical right now is absolutely understandable, normal, and honestly makes complete sense because if you don't feel if you don't have a little cynicism around all of the promises that weren't kept and all
Uh,
of the betrayals that have happened and the mistrust that has been sown, then yeah, like I think it's really easy to if you don't have that in you to go, like I think that part of cynicism is being skeptical. And I know it
uh-huh.
maybe leans more seemingly negative to be cynical, but right now I think we are just in a cynical place in the world. However, I don't think that that then means to become more self-reliant. I think the tricky part is how do you find community when you don't know who to trust, which I think is a
Uh,
big thing that I have when I'm talking about this subject with clients, with friends, whatever. I frequently bring it back to the fact that we have a major uh like accountability and forgiveness have to happen in order for us to be able to move on in some way, or at least forgiveness in the sense of I may not forget, but I have to move forward. But until the people that have enabled these systems to overhaul our lives in such negative ways, until we see that, I don't know if there will ever be an ability for us to go, okay, yeah, I'm safe moving on again with these people. Because I think that there's half of us don't trust the other half and that's
right.
partly because the political system, specifically in the MAGA system, that is by design. They want us to not be united. They want us to see each other as different instead of looking at
Uh-huh.
more what's the same. And people have
Uh-huh.
made those as part of their identities. Like, you know, it's a sports jersey you're wearing versus a human moral, like, compassion for people to have their right to dignity and freedom. And so that's where I'm thinking I want to see us move towards unity and move towards collaboration, all of us again, but we've got to see more people own what they did wrong. And I am starting to see it in very small numbers. This is if you want to look for hope, I do feel like I'm seeing an increase in people speaking up and saying, "Yes, I voted for Donald Trump 3
Uh,
times, or I did this and did that, and now this isn't what I voted for. This is one of this," which is always really hard for those of us who, were not watching Fox
saw it
News.
coming. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is if you were either watching various news sources or just not only Fox News, you knew this.
Hmm.
This isn't new
Right.
information, but there's a lot of people who truly believe what he said, which is I don't I that's something I'm gonna have to really wrap my mind around because that's where I then go, what happened to intelligence? What happened to common sense? What happened to
Critical thinking.
critical thinking? And because I think if any of those things were in place, like you mentioned, you know, the grab him by the pussy line, to me, even way earlier than that was when he mocked a disabled reporter in front of everybody very early in his
Yeah.
campaign.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it was spoken about in a way of this is horrible, this is terrible. But then he sailed through all those primaries and then became the
Uh-huh.
nominee. So how can a person of disability not then go, "Oh, well, now I know where I stand in this world," which is also how a
Right.
lot of people of marginalized populations are feeling. Obviously, our trans people, our brown and black people, our
Right.
queer people, people of Jewish faith, so on and so forth. So it's
A lot of
like,
women. Hmm.
oh, I mean, yeah, and then, of course, like, the
Hmm.
sick side of women not voting for their own best interest, which is
Staggering.
always
It's
scary. I mean,
yeah.
that's the thing, how that is where all this has gone to. So, yes, being cynical, how can you not be with all the things I just said? But also there are pockets of people coming together. Like, I know at the time of this recording, we're about to have the next No Kings protest. And
Hmm.
that is, I'm hoping, going to be something that brings a lot of people together. But I mean, I don't know. I'm hopeful because I want to be hopeful, but I'm not secure in that hopefulness.
Yeah. I think I feel the same way. It would be great if we saw more accountability, more people standing up and saying, I didn't realize what I was voting for. I'm sorry I did that. But I think part of forgiveness for me is also in the recompense. Like I need to see people behaving differently, taking action
Absolutely.
to make up for the gargantuan mistake of putting this administration into power. And it doesn't have to be, enormous, some enormous show, but
No.
something I don't know, like that I think to me it would go a long way. It would go a long way
Huge.
in me being able to let go of and okay, now I feel like we can relate again. We can be neighbors again and not be so divided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I have anything else more uplifting or just, useful to talk about other than that. But just felt like it
Yeah.
was an important reflection on the state of things these days and our reaction to them. So what about
It's such
what?
a guy. It's just this is the most, like, downer episode ever.
Kind of is. Yeah, it kind of is. I think that's just where I was when
I
I
mean, I
was
think
kind of
that's
putting it
where
all
we are
together.
in this
Yeah.
world, right? Like, it's just
Yeah.
we
It's
are all
real. At least we're being
exhausted.
real about it.
We're being
Hmm.
very
Yeah.
real, yes. And also,
Yeah.
like, yeah, these are the moments where, like, I can pull back and go,
Uh-huh.
"Ooh," like, I can relate all through
Uh-huh.
it, but also, like, God damn it, I hate that this is where our heads are at.
Yep.
But it's
Yep.
not because we're not looking for good. I mean, we work with people who are telling us amazing triumphs in their lives every single day, like, or
100%.
their pursuit
Yeah.
of trying to get to the
Yeah.
other side of their pain.
Yeah.
And that is always beautiful and empowering. And so we have that. And maybe that's what we rely on to get through partially. But also, all of this is happening.
I'll make this my takeaway, and
Yeah.
hopefully it's a little bit more upbeat than than the whole arc of this episode.
Yeah.
I'll go back to Viktor Frankl and the sort of the last tenet of stoicism that overlaps with his. It's rejecting victimhood as the final
Mm,
identity. We're in this terrible place, and this is not where it ends. Right?
no.
I can choose. I can accept my reality, and then I can choose what I want to do next. And the thing that I come back to often is it's actually a quote from a line from Ted Lasso. I think he said, "We don't fight back, we fight forward."
Mm,
And that
mm,
that reminds me, like, I don't want to put my energy into that. I don't want to walk around looking at the world cynically. I
yeah.
want to hopefully walk around putting the world that I want to see, putting that energy out, that goodness out, right? That's the choice I want to make, not to be a victim, not to be run over by all of the terrible shit, but to accept that it's happening and then also work with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen.
What's your takeaway from today?
My takeaway
Burn
is
it all down.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on
Mm,
that. Um,
okay.
but at least for now. My takeaway is going back to, the initial conversation
Mm,
of being able to really look at the space in between stimulus and response is, I
mm,
think, a pre-step in that is something that a lot of people don't think about. It kind of sometimes surprises me how almost it feels like I'm giving them something they've never thought about before, and I guess that's true for some people. But ask before you have a hard conversation if that person is in the place to have that hard conversation. Because if
Mm,
you're on the side of you have been thinking about it and formulating an idea, you are
yeah.
already in the headspace. You've been mulling it over. However, that person,
Hmm.
unless you have given them the heads up and they know where you're at, then they're not gonna mentally be there necessarily. And so
Right.
I always say, before any kind of major conversation, maybe say, if you don't have the space for it right now, can we make
Hmm.
space for it later to talk about something difficult around blah blah subject? And that
Yeah.
at least puts it on that person's radar. They can decide to tackle it now, or they can decide to tackle it later. But regardless, again, that gives choice, and that to me is, it's so important to read the room and to not just like throw our agenda on other people if we can absolutely help it.
I like that. Yeah, that's useful. That's actually something that I feel like comes from or is maybe more present in Gen Z is they'll
Mhm.
ask almost like they're asking consent to have a
It is
difficult
consent.
conversation,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Yeah. Like, do you have the
absolutely.
spoons for this type of a conversation? I'm like, it's really great. It's a really great habit to build. So yeah, I like that. Good one.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people have been born into thinking that they have to, again, force themselves to have the response, have the moment now, now, now,
Right.
now.
Right.
And that's
Hmm.
usually
Yeah.
catering to someone else's discomfort versus your
Mm,
own value system of what would I do
sure.
living in my best self, wanting to make sure I reflect from a place of actual thought. But again, the
Mm,
important thing is you have to circle back. It doesn't work if you say not now, but then not ever, you know?
r- right. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. How about a secret question? Did you bring me a good one today?
I mean, I like it, so sure. Uh,
Yeah. Okay.
so my secret question is, if you had 1 minute to talk to your 2019 self, what would you say? And you have to. You can't say, "I wouldn't." No, you have to talk to them for 60 seconds. What would you tell them?
60 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm like short circuiting right now.
Jason, do
I
you
don't
need
even know what I
permission
would
to sit and think about this
focus
and then
on.
come back to it next time?
I need like a year to think about this and to write a draft and rewrite and rewrite. No, I think I would 2019. I mean, I would probably say like there's a pandemic coming and here are some things that you need to make sure you have enough of. That was the biggest thing that happened, I think, for me. The biggest, like, out of left field and lockdown and a year and a half of telehealth sessions and, like, it was just so crazy and chaotic. There's no way to properly prepare a person in 60
No.
seconds, but, like, trust me, this is coming. Here's a list of things you need. Go get those things or make sure you have enough of them or whatever, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah. Great. No, good answer.
How about you?
Oh,
In all fairness,
in all
I didn't
fairness, well,
prepare
it
that part.
depends. See, is this your secret question? All right, I will
No, I was just
play.
turning it around, but okay.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. I will play. I would definitely say, I would say make sure to get in as much time with the people and things. Like I think I've always been
Mm.
very like, because I'm always I'm, I'm you're not gonna laugh soon. I'm frequently thinking about endings, and so I think that I'm always,
Oh.
I see. And so
Yeah,
I'm
uh-huh.
always thinking about, "Oh god, but what if that's the last time I see this person? Those are the last words I say." Like, I think
Mm.
about that
Yeah.
often. So, it wouldn't
Really?
be hard
Okay,
for me to
yeah.
just go up to 2019 me and be like, "Hey, keep doing what you're doing, but also, like, really keep doing what you're doing." Because
Mhm.
things are gonna fucking blow up. But also, I don't know. Oh, you know what? I would have told myself, "Get your goddamn passport. Go get your passport
Oh,
now."
yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
uh-huh.
yeah. And
Go to a tropical
also,
island.
Yeah. Be careful about islands right now.
I know.
That
Yeah,
might
I
be
know. I know. Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
might
yeah,
be a
yeah, yeah.
little
Yeah.
so yeah, I think just yeah, like really because that was the last Christmas that I got at home with several family members before
Yeah.
life has changed. So I would have really been like, make sure you are just like soak it up. It's gonna be different very soon.
Yeah. 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 That's good. Nice. Okay. Well, my real secret question is
Uh-huh.
you actually, it's funny because you went back in time. And my question is, what's your prediction for March of 2033?
Oh, fuck. Oh. So at that point, I will be in my late 40s.
Okay.
Um, that it truly feels I can't my brain I think 5 years ago, 10 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, I could have played with this question to think
Yep.
about something that is 7 years from now. Like, I can't even see a year from now. Like, I don't really know what it looks like. I don't know
But
6 months from
so
now.
I agree. And that I think speaks to the chaos. We have
100%.
no idea what to expect.
'Cause I think I don't wanna let myself down. I know that that's part of, like, projecting things is that I know I
Yeah.
have made it work despite the
Mm-hmm.
various, giant log rolls that have flown through my metaphorical, like, car,
Yeah.
windshield,
Yep. Uh-huh.
and so, like, I've made it work, but also, like, I
Yeah.
don't know, I feel like I'd be like, "Well, I'll become a superhero, and then I will learn how to juggle, and then I'm gonna move to Dubai." I don't know, like, I feel like
Yeah,
it's all as
sure.
true or as fake as I want it to be right now because of how
Uh-huh.
fucking crazy it is, and so
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
personally don't wanna
Yeah.
inflict that question onto you unless you choose to answer it.
I don't necessarily have a prepared answer, but I think I would probably just skew more towards the what I hope will be the case in
Mm.
7 years. And so, obviously it's probably just a lot of the opposite of what we talked about today.
Hopefully, our first female president
Yeah.
is beginning their 2nd term.
Mm. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's great. I'm just gonna hope for that.
Yeah. Or
Women
queer president
women are gonna
or
rule the world. Yeah. Hmm.
president of a different nationality, like, I just yeah. Yeah,
All the above.
yeah,
A queer brown woman. Let's do it.
do it. Yeah. Good luck to you, lady.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, she's out there. She's ready. Okay. So how about a shout out? Give me a shout out or 12. What do you got?
I could definitely give many, but this shout out, I have to give it to the return of The Comeback, which is the
Ooh.
TV series starring Lisa Kudrow. So for anybody who
Uh-huh.
doesn't know about The Comeback was this show that came out in 2005. So this was a little over a year after Friends had ended. And
Mm.
Lisa Kudrow and Michael Patrick King, who is he became the head writer of Sex and the City, and he's been an executive producer for other things too. They created this show based off of essentially an actress that is beyond her prime who is wanting
Mhm.
to make a comeback. And so this was really at the beginning of reality television becoming the thing that I mean, it was way ahead of its time. The thing about The Comeback is it's hilarious, but it's also there's a lot of humiliation that happens. There's a lot
Mm.
of it can be very difficult to watch because Lisa Kudrow captures this woman trying so hard that in one sense you're like, you know what, good for her. Like she obviously is fighting for herself and like wants to make sure she is seen and heard regardless of how annoying she can be or how out of touch she
Mm.
can seem. There's something that you root for her in that. And then anyway, the show got canceled. However, it developed a cult following, came back in 2014. And this time they were really tackling how comedies were turning into dramedy and it became kind of this sort of meta conversation and it was excellent. And then here we are in 2026 and it's come back and now the whole idea is that she is going to star the character of Valerie Cherish is her name. It was supposed to be like a for those of you who know who are I guess older like us, she's like a Shelley Long type actress. She
Oh, okay,
is
sure.
she's an actress that is like from that 90s era that was
Uh-huh.
well known but never really like lifted off in the way that maybe people thought she would at one time. Well,
Mhm.
now she's a part of a show that's going to be completely written by AI. And so every season
Oh
that it
my
comes back
god.
is tackling like a new trend in television. And
Yeah.
so it's brilliant because it's really it speaks so much about where we are as a culture, but it is also showing, this character who is in her 60s at this point, like following her career
Yeah.
and also like what are the ways to maintaining your star power, really your power period, and what do you lean into, what do you let go of, and sort of that battle between like loving yourself but also challenging yourself. And I don't know, it's so I was really long-winded on this, but I just Lisa Kudrow is like on my I would say my Mount Rushmore of performers for me. Like I think she's brilliant in everything I've seen her
Uh-huh.
in. She's just so good. And so anyway, if you really like outside the box, awkward but still funny kind
Mm.
of reality show, parody comedy, it's such a hybrid. Check out The Comeback. It is back. Lisa Kudrow is the best. That's my take or my that's my shout out.
That's my takeaway. Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
shout out, take or shout.
That's an interesting sort of I think you said the word meta, but like meta approach to like it's the comeback of the comeback. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like a Richard Linklater project, like Boyhood, where it was filmed over 20 years or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of it's kind of crazy. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Cool.
cool
All
to
right.
follow a
Yeah.
character so
For
far
sure.
into
Yeah.
their life. Like it's, really neat.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. What about
Well,
you?
I
What's your
mean,
shout out?
I don't have anything nearly as long-winded. I'm just grateful that my Achilles is getting better, and then I get to go on vacation next week.
There
That's
you go.
stuff that I'm looking forward to. I'm shouting out. That's all.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah. 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 It's great. Yeah, I'm excited for it. So cool. Thanks. Thanks for wandering into some dark territory today and viewing the dumpster fire that is
Wandered,
the US and
stumbled, whichever you'd like to call it.
numbers, whatever it
Yeah.
might be. No, yeah, it's always good conversation. So thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Right back at you.
Yeah, thanks. But as usual, we just want to remind everybody to like us and follow us. And you can find us on YouTube and Collect Your Thoughts podcast on Instagram. And also, we also just want to remind you to take a breath and
Collect your thoughts.
thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Peace.